Attention bowlers, we are going to get started. From Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire, this is the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. My name is Steve Kelly, and I will be your host and guide during this Class B North playoff match between today's challengers, Joe Rocheleau versus Jon Alosa. It's good as always to have you along with us. Originally live streamed on Sunday, May 26th at 11 a.m. and available for rewatching anytime upon the conclusion of this match. That's Joe Rocheleau down there on lane 20 at Boutwells Bowling Center, starting out with a 9-box. If you're new to the ACST or Candlepin bowling in general, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to you and hope you enjoy this match and Candlepin bowling as a whole. And if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. Your continued viewership is greatly appreciated. It's Joe Rocheleau on lane 20. Left-handed ball down the center, slightly off to the left of the center, and that is a left side half Worcester. The 2 and the 8 pins were taken out. For those interested, I'd like to highlight 2 things. First of all, this broadcast should be available with subtitles and live captioning if all goes well. I will also be providing audible descriptions of the play-by-play action, as well as scoring to the best of my ability. If you have any questions or suggestions, as always, please let me know in the comments. As always, the scoreboard you see on the stream itself should be considered unofficial. All scores are reviewed, and everything is validated at the end. That is a 10-box for Joe Rocheleau. Speaking of scoring, Joe Rocheleau sits at 19 after 2 at Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire, this first of 5 in this 5-game series. It's all about the grand total scratch pinfall between these 2 bowlers for playoff contention. If you tuned in early and saw the playoff picture graphic, I will show it again when we have a free moment. You'll see that we've already had 2 matches in the North B class quarterfinals already. We had Eric Hawley Sr. versus Steve Kelly. Eric Hawley Sr. advances to the semifinals. And J.J. Tarigny versus Rob Brown. In a stunning upset, Rob Brown advances to the semifinals. And in today's quarterfinal match, we have Joe Rocheleau, the away bowler from Academy Lanes in Haverhill, Massachusetts, squaring off against Jon Alosa, the home bowler at Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire. That was Joe Rocheleau against a 7-10 split with wood, and he hit it the right way, and a piece of wood comes over to the 7-pin, but it doesn't quite take it out. Spins in front of the 7-pin, but doesn't make contact. So he's shooting for a 10-box. It's going to be a 9 or 10 on the 7-pin. He's going to miss it for a 9-box. That's 28 after 3 for Mr. Joe Rocheleau. Here in Concord, New Hampshire at Boutwells Bowling Center. Great to have you along with us. Again, I'm Steve Kelly with Joe Rocheleau and Jon Alosa. It's great to have you along. It's Joe Rocheleau in the navy blue shirt on lane 20 in Concord, New Hampshire at Boutwells, and that's on the head pin this time. Pretty decent shot, drops 8, leaving the 6 and the 10 on the deck. Zoom in on that so you can get a better look. There's 2 pieces of wood in front of the 6-pin. He's got one, and they're both sort of in a kind of inverted V shape. This is going to be an interesting shot. You kind of have to play it right in the center of those 2 pieces of wood and hope it doesn't spread out enough. Joe Rocheleau made a face, or made a gesture when he threw that ball, and he knew what he did. He must have hit it a little bit too high or too low to his liking. And of course, it didn't take out both pins, so that gesture was valid. Joe Rocheleau for a 9 or a 10 on the 10-pin. He'll take a 9-box. It's his 3rd 9 of the game. That's 37 after 4. 3 9s and a 10 for Joe Rocheleau with 1 to go before he sits in this first of 5-game series, the first half of the match. First of many halves for Joe Rocheleau, the first of 5 matches to be specific. We'll talk about some stats and our bowlers as we progress through the match. Give you all kinds of numbers to talk about and review. There's also a stats ticker on screen in case I miss anything or if there's any additional stats that I don't get a chance to talk about. There should be a decent amount of them up near the top of your screen, right below the scoreboard. That's Joe Rocheleau against a left side shallow washout. Second ball follow-up is a full shot on the head pin, leaving the 3, the 6, and the 10 pins for another 10-box opportunity for Joe Rocheleau. So 3, 6, 10 is what he's shooting at. Between 7 and 10 is what the box total will be. He'll take 1 out, 10-pin, deciding if it wants to fall or stay. Decides it's going to stay for another round. He'll take an 8-box. That's 45 after 5 for Joe Rocheleau. That is confirmed on the scoreboard with CompuScore as well as my score. Two-way validation here at Boutwells Bowling Center. So we're now going to say hello to Jon Alosa on lane 20. Both bowlers starting out on lane 20 today. Lanes 19 and 20 are the pair. It's on the side of the house of Boutwells I would consider the quote-unquote better side. I haven't bowled here too often, but the few times I have, I've had much better luck on lanes 13 to 24 at Boutwells Bowling Center rather than the other half. And Jon Alosa starting with a 6 drop and following up with a spare, a very quick spare. It was on the 7-10-3-6. Jon Alosa starting out hot with a spare, the first spare of the match. For 10 after 1 plus a ball for Mr. Jon Alosa. Alosa on lane 20. Fires on the head pin. He's on the right of it. Drops 8. Fills that spare with 9, leaving the 4 pin for a single pin spare for Jon Alosa. 19 after 1. For the follow-up spare, he will get that spare, Jon Alosa. 2 in a row, 29 plus a ball after 2. Let's dive into some stats here about a few of our bowlers. Let's talk about Jon Alosa. He has a season record of 151 and 101 in the regular season after 18 great matches played. At home, he has a perfect 1.0 win-loss ratio at 63 and 63 after 9 matches. That's another 9 fill on Jon Alosa's spare on just the 5 pin. And he misses the single pin 5 pin spare. Staring him down, the 5 pin. The 5 pin was a public enemy at Lakeside Lanes between me and Eric Hawley Sr. That can be a strange pin to fall and a strange pin to shoot at. He'll take a 10 box. That's 48 after 3 for Jon Alosa. Taking the lead already in the third. He's up by 3. Still plenty of time. This lead will likely get passed around, I'm sure, but at the moment, Jon Alosa has it. Lane 20 fires. He's on the head pin once again, dropping 7. The 3-6-10 are on the deck. Some wood in the neighborhood, still settling. One piece of wood behind the 3-6-10, another one to the left of the 3-6-10. Still settling. According to the rulebook, we technically have to wait till the wood reasonably settles before we can throw another ball. Versus the 3-6-10, Jon Alosa for the spare, and he will shoot the middle pin instead. The 6 pin out, the 3-10 still on the deck. Jon Alosa versus the 3-10, 8, 9, or 10 box here. He's going to take out the 3 pin and the 3 pin only for a 9 box. That puts him at 57 after 4. Jon Alosa's away record is 88 and 38. That's a 2.31 win-loss ratio. So he does better when he's away compared to home. Jon Alosa, that ball was a bit of a wild pitch, way off to the left of the head pin. He drops 3. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 9, 10. Hoping he can get a spare before he sits. Jon Alosa fires. He's to the right of the head pin this time. Overcorrects a little bit. The 1, the 2, and the 3 are on the deck. Shooting at the 1, the 2, and the 3 for a 10 box. 7, 8, 9, or 10 for Jon Alosa. He shoots. He will get a 10. Follow up. Nice cleanup. Nice out. He will take a 67 half to start this out. That is a fantastic half by Jon Alosa. 2 marked 67. 2 high-powered 9 fills carried him to the 67, along with 10, 9, 10. Joe Rocheleau has his work cut out for him with the 45 half, markless so far. But anything can happen. This is the first of a 5-game series. It's all about the scratch total at the end of the day here at Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the quarterfinal of the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Joe Rocheleau on lane 19. He starts out our away bowler. He's off to the left of the head pin, oddly enough. And he's off to the left, off to the right of the head pin on the follow-up ball, and he takes a few more out. He's left with the 6 and the 9 pins on the deck. I will fix that mini zoom cam in a little bit here. Just want to focus on Joe Rocheleau for now. Joe Rocheleau for the 10 box on the 6-10, on the 6-9. He will take a 10. Excellent pinning. In matches like this, it's all about the pinning. More so in scratch teams matches, of course, like the Friday Night Pro League. Check that out on Candlepin Bowling Network on YouTube. But otherwise, pinning it out and getting 9s and 10s, more specifically 10s, really assists in making sure that games don't become disasters for certain bowlers. Joe Rocheleau with a nice methodical strike. A very slow-moving strike. The 10-pin falling last. Joe Rocheleau has the honor of achieving the first strike of this match. 65 after 7 plus a fill. Joe Rocheleau, after 6 practice boxes, he's scored his first mark, and perhaps he's come alive now. Joe Rocheleau on the follow-up strike here at Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire. He's on the head pin again, drops 7, a real quick falling 7. We will count the fill after this next ball. The 5, 8, 9 are on the deck. Joe Rocheleau. Joe Rocheleau with a season record of 132 and 120 after 18 matches. That's a 1.1 win-loss ratio, technically better than Jon Alosa's. Joe Rocheleau tries to cut the wood to the left, but it doesn't quite work. He'll take an 8 on that strike, putting him at 73 after 7. With an 8, 9, or 10 box possibility here for Joe Rocheleau. On lane 19, he fires. He's on the object pin, but a little bit too full. He'll take a 9. 82 after 8 for Joe Rocheleau. Joe Rocheleau's away record is 46 and 80 after 9 matches. That's a .575 win-loss ratio. So he struggles a bit when he's away compared to home. When he's home, his record is 86 and 40 at Academy Lanes in Haverhill, Massachusetts. That's a 2.15 win-loss ratio. Joe Rocheleau with a 5 drop, moving the 7-pin at least an inch or two. In fact, let's take a look at that. Look how far the 7-pin moved. So it's the 4 horseman left side plus the 10-pin, 1, 2, 4, 7, 10. Shooting a spare, that moved 7-pin will be interesting. But he misses off to the right. Fires a little bit too much off to the right. Joe Rocheleau is a left-handed bowler. Similar to Rob Brown yesterday, also a left-handed bowler. And Joe Rocheleau is shooting for a 10 box now at this point. And he will miss the object pin. The 7-pin will fall late. He'll take a 9 box to clean up. Joe Rocheleau hasn't bowled a box lower than 8 this game so far. He has 91 after 9. Current totals stand at 91 to 67 at this uneven point in the match. But might I remind you, Jon Alosa has a 67.5, which might assist in getting an early lead in this playoff match. Joe Rocheleau with a left side half Worcester. Takes out the 2 and the 8. So here's the thing about the half Worcester, bit of a history lesson for you. The half Worcester was allegedly coined during a Channel 5 TV tournament. According to Dan Murphy, the commentator in the Channel 5 tournament, it wasn't Dan Murphy, it was someone else, remarked that after the split was thrown, quote, he's already halfway back to Worcester because that was the location the bowler who threw it was from. And my goodness, Joe Rocheleau taking out just a few more pins. This is a shot I saw at Lakeside a lot. The 4, 5, 6, 3, 7, 10. He'll take one more out for an awkward 5 box to finish his game at 96. So 96 first game for Joe Rocheleau. That'll set the stage for Jon Alosa, who has 29 pins to match that, 30 pins to pass. He has to get to 5 games with the highest grand total scratch pinfall, and anything can happen, so don't let the results of one game sway you too much unless it's absolutely wild. That's Jon Alosa with a left side washout, 1, 5, 3, 6, 8, 9, 10. Jon Alosa for the spare, and he's on the head pin, and only the head pin goes. It wiggles the 9-pin, but nothing else falls. It's a right side hay bale now. 5, 6, 3, 9, 10. 9-pin wiggling. Piece of wood next to the 5-pin. Jon Alosa will connect with the 6-pin. Pins are still falling, though. More pins fell than I expected. He'll take a 9 box, a merciful 9 box for Jon Alosa, leaving only the 3-pin on the deck. That puts him at 76 after 6. Difference of only 20 with 4 boxes to go. If Jon Alosa can rustle up 21 pins, that'll put him on top at the end of the first game of this 5-game series in this playoff match. Jon Alosa dropping 6. The 4 horseman right side is what he's left to shoot out with no wood to help him. 1, 3, 6, 10. And he fires. He's slightly to the right of the object pocket. He takes out the 3-pin full, leaving the 1, 6, 10. For a 10 box, 7, 8, 9, or 10 for Jon Alosa. He'll take one more out. He'll take the 6-pin out full for an 8 box. That puts him at 84 after 7. Jon Alosa frustrated after that one. With 3 boxes to go, Jon Alosa has to match 96 or greater to stay on pace with Joe Rocheleau. After a 67 half, he's having some struggles all of a sudden, starting hot and then cooling off fast. Jon Alosa off to the left of the head pin. 1-3-7. 7 pin may go down. May go down, may not go down. Well, that's Boutwells for you. I've seen a lot of weird action like this at Boutwells where sometimes a pin will unexpectedly fall or not fall, despite looking like it is definitively going to fall. But Jon Alosa will settle that debate. He'll take a spare after taking out the 1-3-7 right on the pocket of the 1-3 for 94 plus a ball after 8. Jon Alosa coming alive with the marks already. 3 marks to the match so far in just the first game. Jon Alosa filling that spare width. He threw that ball, and I heard an Never want to hear an He takes 6 on that spare. 1-3-8-10. He's at 108. For the spare opportunity, he misses it. He punches the 3 full, leaving the 1, the 8, and the 10. So it's going to be a 7, 8, 9, or 10 box for Jon Alosa. Excuse me. Jon Alosa will take an 8 box. That will put him at 108 and 9. Just making sure we're lined up on the CompuScore, and yes, we are. They were just a box and a half behind, but they just caught up. It is confirmed 108 after 9 for Jon Alosa. Jon Alosa on the head pin, a little bit too full. That's a banana split. Somebody hungry? Casey McCool. 7-10-4-6 with wood, possibly favorable wood. Let's see how Jon Alosa can spin it. Spin is the operative term here. Jon Alosa will fire on the left side and oddly take a full shot on the 4. The ball and the wood careening all around the 7 and no pinball action. So it's going to be a 7, 8, 9, or 10 for a possible 118 game. It's going to be a 117 with that 9 box for Jon Alosa leaving the 7. At the conclusion of the first game, Jon Alosa is up in the match by 21. Again, it's not about points, it's about the match total. Appreciate you watching. I'm Steve Kelly for Joe Rocheleau and Jon Alosa, and we are going to be moving on to the second game here in just a little bit once the bowlers are ready. They're just quickly discussing. Let's take a look at the playoff picture while we have a free moment here, though. As you can see, we've had 2 of 4 matches occur in the quarterfinals so far. Today, we're watching Jon Alosa and Joe Rocheleau bowl in Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire. We've also seen Eric Hawley Sr. and Steve Kelly bowl on Friday night on the 24th of May, where Steve Kelly got knocked out. Eric Hawley Sr. advances, and then we had J.J. Turigny and Rob Brown bowl yesterday on Saturday, May 25th. In a stunning upset, Rob Brown defeated J.J. Turigny at Leda Lanes. So that's Joe Rocheleau starting out the second game. He drops 5, 1, 2, 4, 7, 10. And he methodically runs down the left side 4 horsemen. On the right side pocket, the pins dance around, but don't take the 10 pin out. And we have a piece of wood that's out of play that we're just waiting on. See that it's on the right channel, and it hasn't decided if it wants to leave or not. But anyways, yeah, let's take a look at the playoff picture while we have a free moment here. Later today, Kevin Dietrich and Dominic Palladino will bowl each other at Riverwalk Lanes in Amesbury, Massachusetts. In fact, actually, that match may be kicking off right about now. I'm unsure who will be streaming it. I know Dom asked me to stream it, and unfortunately, I'd already committed to this match. So, Dom, my apologies. I failed you. I couldn't cover that match. But if someone else is down there in Riverwalk Lanes covering the match, we'll have that available on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour page on Facebook. And we'll know the results of that match maybe around the time this match concludes if things sync up. But I think their match may have started a little bit later than this one. Anyways, that's a 10 box for Joe Rocheleau. That's 10 after 1. And Joe Rocheleau on lane 20 at Boutwells in Concord, New Hampshire. He's on the head pin to the 1-2 pocket. He drops 5. That's the 7-8-10-3-6. An awkward leave, not a lot of wood to help out in terms of productive dead wood on the deck. Joe Rocheleau needs to shoot the 3-6 pocket to have any hope of sparing this. He's a left-handed bowler. He needs to curve it right. He curves it a little bit too much to the right. He's on the 10 pin. So it's going to be a 6 to 10 box possibility for Joe Rocheleau. Rocheleau fires. He takes 2 more out for the road, leaving the 7 and the 8 pins for an 8 box. That's 18 after 2 for Mr. Joe Rocheleau. Joe Rocheleau, his season average is 108.95. That was the 17th best average in the B class overall in the regular season. Home average of 112.8, plus 7.7 from his away average of 105.1. That's Joe Rocheleau punching out the spread eagle, a 4-pin spread eagle, the traditional academic spread eagle. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 10. No wood to help him. Joe Rocheleau for a spare. Spread eagle for a spare is always a pretty shot to witness. You never know when it's going to happen or not happen. It is difficult. Joe tries to play the right side with that left-handed release of his, but he misses the 3-6 pocket, connects with the 6-10 instead. It's going to be a 6 through 10 box opportunity for Joe Rocheleau. 18 after 2. He plays the left side as expected. He'll take a 7 box, though, punching full. That's 25 after 3 for Rocheleau. Here at Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire on 152 North State Street. Boutwells has 24 lanes, 12 on each side. We are on the side with lanes 13 to 24 today. Joe Rocheleau on lane 20 dropping 6. The 1, 3, 6, 8 are on the deck. Boutwells uses manual scoring and manual lane resetting, with CompuScore being the scoring software used. All wood approaches, all wood lanes. Boutwells was formerly owned by former WNDS Candlepin Stars and Strikes co-host Dan Murphy. He passed away in 2022. He was also, at one point, the president of the New Hampshire Candlepin Bowling Association. Joe Rocheleau shooting at the 1, the 6, and the 8. And my goodness, he misses the 1 pin, takes out the 6, leaving the 1 and the 8. That's an 8 box for 33 after 4 for Mr. Rocheleau. Joe Rocheleau's high single is 139. He bowled that against Paul Mativier in round 12. And his high series is 599. He bowled that against Tony Levesque in round 16. That's an 8 drop for Joe Rocheleau on the head pin this time. The 6 and the 10 are what he has to shoot out with a piece of wood out in front of the 610. I'm a little worried about the distance between that piece of wood and the 6 pin. But he'll play it, and it will go. He'll take a spare. Great thing to sit on, a spare. 43 plus a ball after 5 for Joe Rocheleau. And now we'll say hello once again to Jon Alosa. He'll take the approach for the first time in the second game on lane 20 at Boutwells in Concord, New Hampshire. Jon Alosa, his season average is 109.75. That's the 14th in B class at the end of the season. That's Jon Alosa on the head pin. Very deja vu-ish shot compared to Joe Rocheleau, the 610 again, with a little extra wood in front of the 610. But again, it's the same idea. A piece of wood a little bit too far out for comfort, with a piece of wood behind it, actually. So the same shot may have a different result, but it will not actually have a different result because he'll hit it hard enough to push everything straight back to the 610. That's 10 after 1 for Jon Alosa. And he's off to the races once again, marking out of the gate, just like he did in the previous game. Jon Alosa has had a great first half so far, filling that spare. Pin still falling. It looks like it's going to be a 7 fill. That's 3 of the 4 horsemen on the right side, the 1, 6, 10. Jon Alosa. Jon Alosa's season average is 109.75. Again, 14th in B. When he's home, his average is actually 108.5, which is actually minus 2.5 from his away average of 111. So Jon Alosa oddly does better when away compared to home. Jon Alosa will miss that 10 box and he'll take a 7. 7 fill, 7 box, 24 after 2 for Mr. Jon Alosa. Great to have you along with us. I'm Steve Kelly announcing. That's Jon Alosa in the black shirt on lane 20 at Boutwells Bowling Center. Great to have you along. I'd appreciate if you could give a like or a comment or a subscribe or ring the bell on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour page on Facebook or Candlepin Bowling Network on YouTube, or maybe just all of them. It would be awesome if you could, if you like this kind of content, Happy to have you on board. Plenty of different streamers and plenty of bowling content almost daily at this point, especially right now. That's Jon Alosa with a 10 box for 34 after 3. Jon Alosa keeping pace with Joe Rocheleau. Jon Alosa had a 117 game 1. Compare that to Joe Rocheleau's 96 game 1. And Jon Alosa slightly off to the right of the head pin, but pin still falling. He drops 9 after all said and done, leaving just the 5 pin. And it's the 5 pin single pin spare shot, no wood, the dreaded 5 pin. Oddly harder enough than it looks, but Jon Alosa's on the king pin. He'll take a spare. Second spare of the match. That will put him at 44 plus a ball after 4. So Jon Alosa is starting to dial in the marks here, just like he did in the first game, in the first half at least. His second half of the first game was the one where he struggled a bit. Jon Alosa's on the head pin. He'll fill that spare with 7. That puts him at 51 after 4. And then let's see what he can do here. This is the 2-4-6. This is a difficult spare opportunity. Yet they hit the 2-4 pocket on the right way. He connects with the 2-4 pocket, but he connects with it on the right side. Jon Alosa frustrated with that one. It's Jon Alosa versus the 6 pin for a 10 box now. And he'll take it. That's a 10 box. That puts him at 61 after 5. Not as high as a half from the first game, but still impressive from Jon Alosa, still maintaining his lead. At this point in the match, Joe Rocheleau has a fill, but at this point, the match is in Jon Alosa's favor by 39, minus a ball from Joe Rocheleau, and we'll find out the results of that here in just a moment. You're watching Joe Rocheleau on lane 19 in the dark navy shirt, and he drops a strike right out of the gate. That was the best possible outcome for Joe Rocheleau right about now. That was exactly what he needed. That's a strike on spare. That puts him at 63 plus a ball after 6, and Joe Rocheleau may have just remediated the issue at hand here. Joe Rocheleau firing out of the gate with a strike. Joe Rocheleau has 44 strikes, 204 spares, and 203 tens for the season, and Joe Rocheleau will wash out the left side for the strike fill, the first ball. We won't count it until the second ball, of course. That's why you get 2, thank goodness. 1, 5, 3, 6, 9, 10 is what Joe Rocheleau is shooting at right now. Joe Rocheleau for the strike fill. He misses the head pin, but he'll take an 8 fill. It's a decent 18, though. He'll have 71 after 6 after all said and done. He's shooting at the 1 and 10 for a 10 box. 8, 9, or 10 box opportunity for Joe Rocheleau, who has a perfect box percentage of 50%. Joe Rocheleau will take the 1 and the 10 for a 10 box. Remember when I said that perfect box percentage was 50? That's how you do it. 81 after 7 for Joe Rocheleau is the current tally. Joe Rocheleau doing significantly better now as of the pivot point of this game. And let's see what Joe Rocheleau can do. The left-handed bowler on lane 19, he's on the head pin. Whatever adjustment he made appears to have worked out for him. 7, 9, 10, 5, 6, 3 is what he's shooting at, though. So he hit the head pin, but didn't get a lot to show for it. But there's a lot of wood in front of this leave. Spare leave opportunity for Joe Rocheleau. It'll be pretty if it goes. If you ask me, I would maybe try to play the wood right in the center where the two are overlapping one another. On lane 19 in Concord, New Hampshire, the state capital of New Hampshire, on North State Street, Boutwells Bowling Center. Come check it out one of these days. And Joe Rocheleau will play that wood. It was the bid that I was predicting would be the best opportunity for that spare, but Joe Rocheleau beside himself, and hey, the rest of us back here kind of said the same thing. We said couldn't have done it any differently. He's shooting at the 6-10 for a 10 box. Joe Rocheleau, he's got to pick a stick. I would pick the 6 pin if I had to bet on it. He fires at the 6 pin, and he nearly kicks over to the 7 pin, but he'll take a 9 box, a hard-fought 9 for Joe Rocheleau. That's 90 after 8. With 2 boxes to go for Joe Rocheleau. Already doing much better than the first game where he bowled a 96. This will definitely help him in the final grand total pinfall statistic that a bowler has to reach if they want to advance to the semifinals of the playoffs here. That's a 7 drop for Joe Rocheleau. He drops the 2-4-5. Or everything but the 2-4-5, that is. Oops. 2-4-5 spare leave for Joe Rocheleau. No wood. Rocheleau standing like a statue before he throws. Left-handed release. And he goes a little bit too far to the right. He takes out only the 5 pin, leaving the 2 and the 4 on the deck. Rocheleau for an 8, 9, or 10 box. He'll take a 9. He's a little full on the 2 pin. That puts him at 99 after 9 with 1 to go. That strike on spare in the 5th and 6th box really assisted his game here. Joe Rocheleau's season average is 108.95. So, but that's another strike by Joe Rocheleau. I swear every time I try to explain something about him being under average or being off par, he exceeds expectations in every possible way. I said that happened when I was talking about the first mark he threw and then the second mark right after that in terms of the deficit, but now he's at 109 plus 2 balls for the fill, so he could be at a potential 119 or higher here. Okay, 119 is the ceiling now. He drops 5. 4 horsemen right side and the 7 pin. 1, 3, 6, 7, 10. Second ball is the fill ball for Joe Rocheleau. The bonus ball. Joe Rocheleau, and he'll touch every pin, but he'll take a 9 fill. He'll take a 118, so now he's over average. There we go, Joe. Nice job. 118 second game for Joe Rocheleau for a 2-game total of 214. We'll see how Jon Alosa can respond in the second game here. On the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, this quarterfinal match between Jon Alosa and Joe Rocheleau. Thanks for watching. Jon Alosa on lane 19, he fires. He's not on a fill or anything. He takes a half Worcester plus a friend. 1, 3, 5, 4, 6, 7, 10 are on the deck. Jon Alosa has a high single of 159. He bowled that against Jake Morrill in round 16. And Jon Alosa will take the spare handily. The half Worcester conversion for a spare. Wonderful shot. It's always pretty to see it go. Jon Alosa is going to be filling a spare in the 6th. Currently at 71 plus a ball. He's slightly off to the right of the head pin, but Wood is generous, comes back around. He'll fill that spare with 7. The 7-9-4 is what he's shooting at. Or the 4-7-9, I guess, if you want to go in order. Jon Alosa with the 4-7-9 with Wood, and he'll play the Wood, and the ball will almost come back to take the 9, but misses it narrowly. That's the sidewall action for you. So that puts him at 78 after 6. He'll take a 10 box for 88 after 7. Puts him up plus 7 over Rocheleau at that point in the match. But he'll need a strike or a mark to maintain pace, because might I remind you, Joe Rocheleau had a 19 at the end of the 10th box. Jon Alosa on the head pin still falling, nearly a strike. 6 pin almost falls into the 10 pin, but it angles itself at the last minute. Shooting at a spare opportunity, spare leave. That spare leave just got easier with that back piece of wood falling into the channel. Jon Alosa has to play the wood on the 10, and ooh, he misses off to the left. That was a misfire for Jon Alosa. Jon Alosa for a 10 box now on lane 19 at Boutwells in Concord, New Hampshire. He'll play it. That was the shot. Missed the second, get the third. That's a 10 box for Jon Alosa. That's a PGS. That's a 98 after 8. Plus 8 at the equivalent point in the match. In the game, that is, I mean. Jon Alosa has taken the total by 1, reclaiming it, and he's just racking up some bonus pins for later now for a rainy day in the event of a difficult 3rd, 4th, or 5th game here. But we're just finishing up the second game here. Jon Alosa. 4 horsemen left side in the 10 pin. Spare leave. He's on the invisible 1-3 pocket, but he left the 4 and the 10 on the deck. 4 and the 10, no wood. 10 box opportunity for Jon Alosa. Play the 4. He plays the 4. And the 10 will stay. That's a 9 box for Alosa. 107 and 9. 118 was Joe Rocheleau's game. Jon Alosa's high series during the regular season was 615. He bowled that against Jake Morrill in round 16. Jon Alosa has 50 strikes, 193 spares, and 214 tens for the regular season, with a perfect box percentage of 51%. That's plus 1 over Joe Rocheleau. Jon Alosa drops 7, 4, 6, 7 are on the deck with a piece of wood slightly in front of the 4. I'd play that wood, redline it. He almost redlines it. He hits it a little bit off to the right. Takes the 4, nothing else. 6-10, deja vu. Once again, plays the 6-10, and he gets it this time. That was a pretty shot by Jon Alosa. An excellent follow-up. He finishes at 117, -1 from Joe Rocheleau, but up in the total by 20. The 2-game total is 214 for Joe Rocheleau and 234 for Jon Alosa. Jon Alosa maintaining by 2 10 boxes effectively in the total. It's all about the total. Don't worry about the points. Don't worry about the game leads or whatever. It's all about the match leads at this point. Scratch wins. So we're going to waste no time and move right on to the 3rd game here. That's Joe Rocheleau out there in the navy shirt. Joe Rocheleau washes out the left side. May have rushed a little bit too much there. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 9, 10 on the deck. I call that a shallow washout. That is a term that I came up with because I don't like to call it a washout if it's just the 3 in the back or the 3 in the back left or the 3 in the back right. So think of it as like the kiddie pool. Joe Rocheleau will take a few more out. He's a little bit too full on the center, leaving the 3 and the 6. 3-pin wiggling. Joe Rocheleau on lane 20. He's a left-handed bowler. Has a brace on his right knee. A lot of bowlers bowl with knee braces, myself included, for various reasons, either because knees are often considered God's mistake, as they say in the medical world, as I learned recently, or that if you're like me, where you bowl low to the ground and tend to slide with your knees connecting with the wood approaches, you might get some wood burn. And after a while, I learned that I need to have some sort of layer of protection on my knees to prevent that from happening. So that's why I wear knee braces, but every bowler is different. Joe Rocheleau's appears to be a bit more heavy-duty than that. He will punch out a spread eagle, 4 pins, the traditional academic spread eagle. The American Eagle, I was always more into Abercrombie myself, or Hollister or whatever. I don't know if those still exist anymore. Joe Rocheleau versus the Eagle. He will injure the Eagle a little bit more, taking out only the 6-pin. Some kind of crime against animal cruelty going on here. Joe Rocheleau versus the 2, 3, 4, 7, 10. For the 10 box, he will take a few more out, leaving the 2, 3, 10 for his 7 box. Joe Rocheleau is at 16 after 2. Jon Alosa finished at +20 after the end of the 2nd game. As a recap, Joe Rocheleau, dark navy blue shirt in the right lane of the pair of lanes we have today on lane 20. He fires a little bit too full on the head pin, but has a generous drop, dropping 6, maybe 6.5 if that 2-pin decides to go. A lot of wiggly pins. This side of Boutwells in particular is prone to stuff like this happening. The other side of Boutwells is a bit of a tougher house. Or tougher half house, whatever. Tougher halfway house, I don't know. Joe Rocheleau versus the 4, 6, 2, 10. And he'll fire. He'll take out the 2, 4 and leave the 6, 10. It's always amusing to watch this. I'm watching Jon Alosa watch my stream from up here. Got kind of like a, when you look in a mirror with a mirror behind it kind of situation. And Joe Rocheleau will take a 9 box for 25 after 3 at this point in the match. We're at an uneven point in the match, so I won't assess the totals just yet here, other than Jon Alosa is up by +20 at the end of the 2nd game. Joe Rocheleau, lane 20. A little bit full, but again, another generous drop. The 5 and the 9 pins are on the deck for Joe Rocheleau for a spare opportunity. 5-9. Company that does calls in the enterprise world, phone kind of stuff. If you know, you know. Joe Rocheleau versus the 5-9. 5-9s of service, and the 5-9s of service continue here at Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire. He misses the spare. This might be a PGS potential here. He fires. He's off to a little off to the right, leaving the 9-pin, 9 box for Rocheleau. That's 34 after 4 for Joe Rocheleau. And he has 1 to go before he sits here. And Joe Rocheleau could really use a mark right about now with a 9-7-9-9. So far, this might be his lowest performing half so far Although, as we saw in the previous game, he is prone to strikes and spares all the same. Joe Rocheleau fires off to the left of the headpin, but a generous drop. 139 on the deck. 139. Spare leave. 1-3 pocket should take it out. The piece of wood between the 3 and the 9 should greatly assist in this. And he fires. He's on it. Exactly as we drew it up in the locker room. That's a spare for Joe Rocheleau. 44 plus a ball after 5, that is. Great one to sit on. Great half for Joe Rocheleau. I would have said it would have been a bit of an uneasy half, but ending on a half with a mark can definitely turn the tide. We saw this with Joe Rocheleau in the previous game where he had a strike on spare in the 5th. So now we're going to welcome back Jon Alosa. Jon Alosa has 9,881 seasonal total pins. He drops 7, 4, 6, 10 on the deck. For Jon Alosa. 4, 6, 10. The piece of wood across the 4 pin. He plays that piece of wood a little bit too full. Takes out only the 4. I would have played it a little bit more to the left if you had asked me. Jon Alosa versus the 6-10 for an 8, 9, or 10 box. He'll take a 10 box. Pinning it out very nicely. That puts him at 10 after 1. And Jon Alosa... overall, in the regular season, he led B North Division 1 all the way to the end, ahead of Jake Morrill, Joe Moose de Almeida, and Rob Brown. Overall, he finished 2nd place in B North before factoring in the playoffs. In case anyone's wondering about the seeding numbers that I put in this broadcast, those are end-of-season seeding numbers. Jon Alosa, he had a right side half Worcester, and to follow up, he hit it a little bit full. The 4, 6, 7, 10 banana split after the 2nd ball is what he's shooting at here. And he will follow up with an awkward 7 box. Hits the wood in an awkward way where he caps it, leaving the 6, 7, 10. That puts him at 17 after 2. Jon Alosa could really use a mark right about now. Appreciate you watching. We're at Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire. That's Jon Alosa down there. I'm Steve Kelly back here. That was Jon Alosa throwing a 3-pin spread eagle. The 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 10 are on the deck for Jon Alosa. This is a slightly more difficult eagle. Jon Alosa breaks the eagle a little bit more. More animal cruelty going on. 2, 3, 6, 9, 10 for a 10 box. 5 to 10. Is what he's shooting for. He'll take an 8 box. 25 after 3 for Mr. Alosa. Having a fantastic time here at Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire. Should come up here and check it out one of these times. It's not too bad of a drive, especially from Nashua, New Hampshire. If the traffic is good, it'll be easy drive. Only about 40 to 45 minutes. Jon Alosa drops 7 there. 7-9-4, or 4-7-9, if you want to sort lowest to highest. He'll bean the 9 pin and the wood around it, leaving the 4 and the 7. For the 10 box, Alosa will fire and he'll miss for an 8 box. Uncharacteristic miss for Jon Alosa so far. 33 after 4 for Jon Alosa at this point in the match. With 1 box to go, Jon Alosa is +9 in the overall total, with some high-powered marks from the second game and the first game in particular, with 2 117s. Jon Alosa drops 7. Pins might still be falling here. The 10-pin wiggling, but nope, it's going to be a 7 drop on the first ball for Jon Alosa. 3, 6, 10. It could be a layup. Just run down the 3, 6, 10. 4 horsemen minus the head pin. But he ends up missing the 3, 6, 10. He runs the ball through where the invisible 1-3 pocket would have been, but he doesn't even connect with the 3. So he's now shooting for a 10 box. And he won't even get that. He'll leave the 3 pin for a 9 box for Jon Alosa. Markless. First time, I think, he's gone markless and a half. 42 after 5 for Jon Alosa. Joe Rocheleau sits at 44 plus a ball after 5. The match total is Jon Alosa +18 at this point, and Joe Rocheleau, he could have an opportunity here to reduce that deficit, especially with the fill that's coming up here in this Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour Class B North playoff match. Thank you for watching. I'm Steve Kelly. That's Joe Rocheleau with a left side lemon drop on the 4 pin and the 4 pin only. 1 pin fill for Joe Rocheleau. So that puts him at 45 after 5. And the correction wasn't quite enough. He'll punch out the left side a little bit more. Still looking at 3 down, 7 up. It's 1, 5, 3, 6, 7, 9, 10 for Joe Rocheleau. Joe Rocheleau on attempting to hit the 1-3 pocket. He misses it a little bit, waiting on the piece of wood to roll by to see if we get an extra pin for the take home, but he'll take a 7. That should put him at 52 after 6. Confirmed. If you're just joining us, thank you for checking out this Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour match between Joe Rocheleau and Jon Alosa at Boutwells Bowling Center. I hope this broadcast finds you well. Everyone involved here, from the bowlers to the staff here, and the spectators all appreciate your viewership and interest in this live stream, as well as Candlepin Bowling as a whole. It's a great time to get into Candlepin Bowling here in playoff season at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. That's Joe Rocheleau with a 4 drop. He's up to the 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, 10. Connects with the invisible 1-2 pocket, takes a few out for the road, leaving the 3 and the 10 on the deck. No spare, shooting for a 10, 8, 9, or 10 box for Joe Rocheleau. What can Joe Rocheleau do here? He will touch both pins, but leave the 10 pin wiggling at the altar for 61 after 7. That's Boutwells for you. I've seen that happen at Boutwells more than anywhere else, where you see pins that should go that don't, and pins that don't go that should. Rocheleau, lane 19. Misses the head pin, but generous leave. Again, that's another Boutwells shot. 1, 3, 10 is what he's shooting at. Some wood behind the 1 and the 3, and 1 in front of the 10. 1-3 pocket is the object pocket. Might have some other unproven methods of getting the spare, but 1-3 pocket is what he should go for, but he slightly misses the head pin. He connects with a 3 a little bit too directly. Leaves the head pin and the head pin only. For the 10 box, Rocheleau will take a 9. That puts him at 70 after 8? Yes, it does. 70 after 8 for Rocheleau. 42 after 5 for Jon Alosa. Rocheleau plus 8 in the total, but he is 3 boxes ahead. Pace-wise, that's a little bit uneasy, I'd say. But we still have 2 games and some change to go here in this playoff match. The Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Joe Rocheleau dropping 5. 1, 2, 7, 8, 9 are what he's shooting at. Joe Rocheleau marking he's sick of these weird leaves. 1, 2, 7, 8, 9 is what he's shooting at. 1-2 pocket is probably the object pocket. Maybe some variation on the head pin is what he should shoot for, and he's on the 1-2 pocket, and wow, things sway right. The 7 and 8 pins remain untouched. 2 sticks on the deck, 8, 9, or 10 box for Joe Rocheleau. He's getting... Oh my goodness, this is a frustrating game for Rocheleau. That's another 9 box, his 3rd 9 in a row for 79 and 9. For Mr. Rocheleau. My goodness, this might be an opportunity now for Jon Alosa, it seems. Hearing a weird motor noise on the pin setter of lane 19 right now. Sounds like a grinding sound. Hopefully that doesn't sound too bad. That happened at Lita Lanes during one of the final boxes of J.J. Turigny's match. And at Lita Lanes, it sounded like a truck was backing up to the lanes, and turns out it was the gate motor. But right now, I'm still hearing that noise. So hopefully, it sounds like it's getting worse. Sounds like a buzzsaw now. Rocheleau misses the 1 and the 7. Yeah, something's definitely wrong with the pin setter motor right now. You probably can't hear it on this mic, but man, it's getting louder. Rocheleau will take an 8, and I think we're probably going to pause to figure out what the heck that noise is. He'll take an 87, an awkward 87 for Joe Rocheleau, for a 3-game total of 301. And we're going to probably take a moment here to pause because we need to just pause for some lane maintenance. Played some slides earlier before the start of the match, but we'll get them in the interim here during the intermission. So here's the playoff pictures so far. So we've had Rob Brown versus JJ Chirigny at Leda Lanes. That match occurred yesterday. I covered that match, so if you want to watch the stream of that, please check it out. It's on Candlepin Bowling Network on YouTube, as well as the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour page on Facebook. And we also had myself, Steve Kelly, versus Eric Hawley Sr. at Lakeside Lanes. I was knocked out by Eric Hawley Sr. I will have an edited version of that match with commentary included that will be put up on YouTube on the Candlepin Bowling Network YouTube channel, maybe later today, maybe tomorrow, depending on when I can just finish the editing for it. Yesterday I did an overdub of the whole match to get some commentary, so it's not just dead air the whole time. And I also edited out some parts where we were waiting on lane maintenance or some just areas where nothing was going on, just to kind of speed things up and make it a speedier match to enjoy with fewer downtime spikes. So that's the playoff picture right now as it stands, and it looks like we might be okay for the pin setter. I will switch it back, and let's welcome back Jon Alosa to the approaches here at Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire. Jon Alosa punching out a little bit too full on the right side. The 3 and the 9 pins are taken out for the right side half Worcester. And Jon Alosa with the 6th high single in B class in the regular season at 159. He had the 8th most 10 boxes in B class at 214. He had the 10th highest perfect box percentage in the B class in the regular season at 51, and that's Jon Alosa leaving the 4-6 for an 8 box. That should put him at 50 after 6 by my account. To recap, Joe Rocheleau finished with a 3-game total of 301 and a 3rd game total of 87. Jon Alosa has the match by 17 at this point. Joe Rocheleau has the match by 17 at this point. But he's 4 boxes ahead of Jon Alosa. And he went effectively markless in the second half, aside from a 1 fill on a spare. Jon Alosa, though, with similar struggles. He hits full on the head pin on the second ball spare leave attempt, and he's left with this ugly 2, 5, 6, 10 accordion style leave. For a 10 box, he'll take 1 more out for a 7. Jon Alosa having similar struggles, except I'd say it might be even worse. He's markless right now in the 7th, 57 and 7. After bowling twin 117s, Jon Alosa seems to be having some trouble here, just the same as Joe Rocheleau. It's funny how a house can suddenly turn on boulders like that. Jon Alosa on the 1-2 pocket, a little bit too full. He's left with the 2-6-7. 2-6-7. 2-6 pocket is the object pocket. You could also maybe hit the left of the 2-pin and get lucky. Jon Alosa's a little bit too full on the 2-pin, though, leaving the 7-pin completely unharmed. For a 10 box, he's shooting at the 7-pin. For a 9 or 10 box, he's going to take a 9 box. That should put him at 66 after 8. And I wish I had more exciting things to say about this match, but so far, not much has been happening. In this particular game, at least. I promise you, the first 2 games were much more exciting than this. Jon Alosa on lane 19. He's on the headpin, throws an angry ball on the 1-3 pocket, drops 9, drops everything but the 5-pin piece of wood rolling presumably out of play. Yes, it will be out of play. Just a single pin, 5-pin spare for Jon Alosa. It's all set up for him. Jon Alosa bowled 8 of 18 matches over 550 in the regular season. He misses that 5-pin single pin spare. This game is going to be ugly for Jon Alosa if he doesn't get a mark in the 10th. 9 or 10 box for Jon Alosa. He'll take a 10. 76 after 9 for Alosa is what we're looking at. Just about to wrap up the 3rd game here. This Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour Class B North Playoff match between Joe Rocheleau versus Jon Alosa at Concord, New Hampshire in Boutwells Bowling Center in the capital of New Hampshire. One of the most northern houses you can be at, aside from Exeter Lanes. About 30 minutes up the road on 101. Jon Alosa versus the 1-3-5-8-9. He's left with the 5-pin, that pesky 5-pin. There's no marks here. So Jon Alosa stands for an 86 game if he gets this pin. Otherwise, it's going to be 85. 9 or 10 box for Jon Alosa. My goodness. 9 box, 85 for Jon Alosa. That is rough. And so far, he just remarked hard battle 85. So the 3rd game total, 87 to 85. Class B, folks, Class B. 3-game total of 319 for Jon Alosa, up by 18 over Joe Rochelau's 3-game total of 301. Hey, both are averaging over 100 at least. Thank goodness. So we're going to move on to the 4th game here. Excuse my construction dust here while we just recombobulate everything for Joe Rocheleau in the 4th game starting out. So there's one thing I do take a little solace in, and oh wow, look at that 9 drop by Joe Rocheleau. Drops everything but the 7-pin. Something I do take solace in. This happened to both me and JJ Turigny. The folks that were maybe originally thought to do a little bit better in the playoffs. We've had really off games, at least one really off game, and that's no exception for Jon Alosa as well, I've noticed so far. Just had the awkward 80-something or 90-something game in all of these matches so far. Joe Rocheleau missed the 7-pin spare due to the wood not playing nice, but he'll miss the 2nd and get the 3rd. That's a PGS. That's 10 after 1 for Joe Rocheleau. Here starting out the 4th game at Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire. That's Joe Rocheleau in the navy blue shirt on the right lane on lane 20. I'm Steve Kelly. Thanks for watching. Joe Rocheleau. What more can I tell you about Joe Rocheleau? He has 9,806 seasonal total pins. He finished 2nd in B North Division 2 behind Kevin Dietrich, while ahead of Jeff Little and Tony Levesque. Overall, he's 7th place in B North. At the end of the regular season, that is. He washes out the right side, leaving the 10-pin. 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10 are what he's shooting out with a piece of wood in front of the 5-pin. He's on the pocket, but he leaves the 5 and the 10, the piece of wood untouched in front of the 5. No spare for Joe Rocheleau. Joe Rocheleau has 7 of 18 matches in the regular season where he totaled over 550 in them, and 13 of 18 matches where he totaled over 520. Only 24% of his games in the regular season were under 100. That's a decent ratio. He'll take a 10 box. And Joe remarking, he heard some hammering back there. I think someone's working on the lane motor that was making the awkward noise. And he says, who's hammering back there right now? Anyways, that's 20 after 2 for Joe Rocheleau with 2 10s, double X. Joe Rocheleau on lane 20. Left-handed bowler, left-handed release. Spin ball towards the pocket, not quite enough to reach the head pin. He drops 5. 1, 3, 6, 8, 10 is what he's shooting at. 4 horsemen right side, and the 8-pin. There are no strings under 100 from Joe Rocheleau between rounds 16, 17, and 18 in the regular season. Joe Rocheleau versus the 4 horsemen right side and the 8-pin. Misses the pocket, doesn't connect with the head pin. The head pin is the only pin that remains. If he had touched the head pin, that would have been a spare. So he's shooting for a 9 or 10 box. See if he'll get his 3rd 10 box in a row. Joe Rocheleau. Joe Rocheleau versus the head pin. That's his 3rd 10 box in a row. Perfect so far. 30 after 3 for Joe Rocheleau. First game 96, second game 118, third game 87 for Joe Rocheleau. This match is still pretty close. If either bowler catches fire within these last 2 games, that will effectively be the match. There were several games that came down to the wire like this. I know with me and Eric Holly Sr., it was Eric Holly up by about 27-ish, if my memory serves, in the final game. And with Rob Brown and JJ Turigny, it was actually about the same deficit, too, just plus or minus a few pins. So that seems to be the name of the game. It's been very competitive, at least in these playoff matches. Things have not been runaways, which is like what we like to see in the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Competitive, close matches. 2-4-10 spare leave for Joe Rocheleau. A little bit too full on the 2-4. So he's shooting for another 10 box. Let's see if he can get his 4th 10 box in a row. So you can get the quadrilogy, the tetralogy. He doesn't, though. He takes a 9 box for 39 after 4 for Joe Rocheleau with 1 to go before he sits. 3 10s and a 9 for Joe Rocheleau. No marks, but still a decent half. You know, never be too upset about getting a perfect half of 10s if you can shake it. Joe Rocheleau on lane 20. A little bit too full on the head pin this time. That's the 3-pin spread eagle. 1, 5, 8 are taken out. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 10 are what he's shooting at. No wood to help him. I'll refrain from the eagle jokes because I think you've had enough of them at this point. Joe Rocheleau on lane 20 for the spare leave on the eagle. 3-pin eagle. He plays the left side. He takes out just the 4-pin and leaves the rest of it. Awkward smattering of pins. He's shooting for a 10 box. This is a salvage mission at this point. Joe Rocheleau. Lane 20. Boutwells bowling center, and he'll wash out the right side shallowly for the 2-3-7. That's a 7 box for Joe Rocheleau to finish with a 46 half. 46 after 5 in the 4th for Joe Rocheleau. That puts him at a 4.5 game total of 347 at this point. Jon Alosa at a 3 game total, 3.5. 3 game total of 319 for Jon Alosa. Jon Alosa with a right side half Worcester plus DLC. Downloadable content for those who don't know. 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, 6, 10 is what Jon Alosa is shooting at for a spare leave. Ball sails through the hole where the first ball went. Already got those, John. Can't count them twice. For the 10 box now, Jon Alosa is shooting at. He'll fire. He'll be straight on the head pin. And my goodness, is that a 4 box for Jon Alosa? Ouch. 4 box for Mr. Alosa. That's a rough starter. I started one of my playoff games with a 3 box, similar idea, where it was a left side half Worcester, and I sailed through that hole twice. That's a 6 drop for Jon Alosa on the head pin this time. Much better leaves. 7, 8, 10, 6. Well, I say much better in the sense that I guess a car crash is better than a train wreck, but you know, he has to play the 6-10 pocket and hope that the pins can careen to the left to take out the 7 and the 8. Alosa plays the right side, 6-10 pocket. The wood almost collaborates, but it just touches both pins on the left side, the 7 and 8. The 8 pin's wiggling, the 7 pin is unimpressed. Wood in front of the 7 and 8, he can at least get a 10 box out of this rather handily if he plays the wood in a certain way in front of the 7 pin, but he misses them entirely for an 8 box. That's 12 after 2 for Jon Alosa. Don't get to say that often. 12 after 2. My goodness. 3 boxes to go before Jon Alosa sits. He has to beat a 46 half. Jon Alosa is only down in the total by 16 despite being 3 boxes behind, so that bodes fairly well for him, but he needs marks at this point. That's a right side hay bale for Jon Alosa. 3, 5, 6, 9, 10 for Jon Alosa. That's a spare leave. He could play the wood. That's a risky move, depending on the velocity of the ball, or he could play it direct. Let's see what Jon Alosa decides. He decides to play directly. He's on the pocket, and he leaves the 9 pin in the back. It's basically like a diamond plus, and the diamond wins again if it was only the diamond. Jon Alosa shooting for a 9 or 10 box. He misses it. That's a 9 box, 21 after 3 for Jon Alosa. Jon Alosa really struggling in the 4th game here, just like he struggled in the 3rd game with an 85, but Joe Rocheleau also struggled with an 87, so it was kind of equal footing. Jon Alosa's first game was a saving grace with the 117 versus Joe Rocheleau's 96. Second game, they were mostly even with 118 versus 117. To give you kind of a greater perspective on where the points are coming and going from. Jon Alosa washes out the right side, 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. No wood to help him. For the spare, he's on the pocket. The 5 pin, that 5 pin, man. The 5 pin is the only one that doesn't go down. Need to petition to just delete the 5 pin from Candlepin bowling altogether. We'd get higher games all around, I swear to God. Jon Alosa will take out that 5 pin for the 10. 31 after 4 for Jon Alosa. With 1 to go before he sits, the benchmark is 46 after 5. Just keep pace with Joe Rocheleau for this particular game. Alosa is +3 in the total, at least. But that total lead is slowly diminishing over time here due to the lack of marks and some of these awkward boxes. Jon Alosa drops 8. That's the 5-3, or 3-5. 3-5, 1 piece of wood off to the left. It's basically irrelevant. Jon Alosa plays the 3-5 directly, and he'll finally get a mark. The first mark in 10 boxes across both of our bowlers here. Possibly even more, if I remember the last game correctly. 41 plus a ball for Jon Alosa at the half versus Joe Rocheleau's 46 after 5 with no marks. I'm Steve Kelly. It's a pleasure having you along with us for this stream, this playoff match of the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour page on Facebook and Candlepin Bowling Network later on after I re-upload it sometime later today. I might do some adjustments to audio levels and maybe a couple other things here and there. Joe Rocheleau drops 9, leaving only the 10 pin on the deck. Joe Rocheleau, he has 8 of 18 matches in the regular season with a double-digit take-home in terms of points, and that's a mark by Joe Rocheleau. He saw Jon Alosa's spare and thought, hey, I want one too. And that's precisely what he did. Great to see it. You love to see it. Joe Rocheleau has 1 match with a 14-0 record. Joe Rocheleau filling a spare now on lane 19 at Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire. He's off to the left of the head pin. That's a 4 fill by the looks of it. I said a 4 fill. 60 after 6 for Joe Rocheleau now. What's he shooting at? He's shooting at the 1, 3, 6, 7, 9, 10. It's a good ball in the 1-3 pocket, and it touches all the pins again. I feel like I've said that multiple times. It even spins the 7 pin a little bit. Piece of wood kind of caressing it. But the 7 pin doesn't go, so he's shooting for a 9 or a 10. That was a perfect spare ball by Joe Rocheleau, and that's just Candlepin bowling for you, folks. I bowled a whole game like that at Lakeside Lanes where I had spare shots that should have gone but didn't, and it's just what happens. Just got to play your game and hope for the best. It's Joe Rocheleau with a 70 after 7. Rocheleau off to the right of the head pin. That's a half Worcester plus. 1, 2, 4, 7, 6, 10 is what he's shooting at. No wood to help him. 1-2 pocket is probably the best opportunity for this. You could shoot at the invisible 1-3 pocket, but maybe best to run down the 1-2. Let's see what Joe decides. He goes for the invisible 1-3 pocket. Not wide enough of a spread. He leaves the 7 and the 10 with some wood, so no spare. It's going to be a 9 or 10 box with the 7 and 10 pins with some pieces of wood on lane 19. 70 after 7, potential for 80 after 8 for Joe Rocheleau now. He's going to play the right side. He's going to pick a stick. He's going to compromise for 79 after 8 with that 9 box. With 2 boxes to go, he's at 79 after 8. Joe Rocheleau normally averages 108.95. When he's away, he averages 105.1. Joe Rocheleau, opening ball, the 9th frame. On the 1-2 pocket, good ball. Kind of a junk leave, though. He's left with the 9 and the 10. No wood to help him. Those are always the most frustrating when you throw a really good first ball and you get left with something like this. It's not to say that this is impossible to get, but it's very, very difficult, and you need basically a lot of luck. Joe Rocheleau versus the 9 and the 10. Joe Rocheleau, lane 19 versus the 9 and the 10 pins. He'll take out the 10 pin for a 9 box. Or not a 9 box, excuse me. Nope, sorry, got 1 ball ahead. No spare, just for 9 or 10. There we go, 10 box. He'll pick both sticks out across the 2 remaining balls of the frame for 89 after 9. So with 1 to go, Joe Rocheleau really needs a mark to kind of get over the hump of getting over 100 and maintaining pace. But Jon Alosa has also been stumbling a little bit as of these games in the second half of this match here. Joe Rocheleau drops 7. 247 is what he's got to shoot at. And I don't know if I'd play that wood. I had a similar shot at Lakeside, and I played the wood, and it didn't end well. But Joe Rocheleau is not going to play the wood. He's going to do the opposite of what I did at Lakeside, and he'll get a spare. Saving grace, 99 plus a ball for Joe Rocheleau. Here at the end of the 4th game, he's got 1 ball to go to fill it. He can potentially get a 109 if he takes everything out. Gets a perfect 10 fill. Rocheleau, final first ball. He's on the head pin, and oh my goodness, another spread eagle. That's a 4 fill, and that will be a 103 for Joe Rocheleau. He was on the head pin, but Again, that's just Candlepin bowling for you, folks. Wow. 2 4 fills, 2 Mark 103 for Joe Rocheleau. His lowest box was a 7. Everything else was a 9 or a 10 if it wasn't a spare with a 4 fill. That was the story for Joe Rocheleau in that game. Gonna say hi to Jon Alosa once again. Jon Alosa with 2 matches over 600 during the regular season. That is 1, 2, 3. That's a 5 fill for Jon Alosa. My goodness. These fills have been gnarly. That's the 1, 2, 7, 9, 10 for Jon Alosa. And he misses the object pin, but some pins kind of dance around in the back, leaving the 1 and the 3. Jon Alosa versus the 1 and 3. He'll take a 9 box for 55 after 6. Jon Alosa has 9 games over 130 in the regular season. He has rolled 134 3 times this season, twice in round 7 and once in round 11. He averages 2.78 strikes per match, 10.72 spares per match, 11.89 tens per match, and awkward array of pins by Jon Alosa in the first ball. Similar to the last box, actually. 1, 2, 7, 9, 10 is what he's shooting at with a piece of wood behind the 2 pin, perpendicular to the 1 and the 2. Jon Alosa on the pocket, a little bit too full, though. It leaves the 10 pin and the 10 pin only. 9 of 18 of Jon Alosa's matches this season resulted in a double-digit point take-home. In his past 5 matches of the regular season, he took 47 points, which is plus 9 from the previous set of 5. And in the past 5 matches, he took 56 spares, which is also plus 5 from the previous 5. Jon Alosa will take a 10 box to round that out. Good pinning, 65 after 7 for Jon Alosa. In the past 5 matches, Jon Alosa had 16 strikes. Again, plus 5 from the previous 5. Not making this up. Jon Alosa drops 7, 6, 7, 9. That's what he's shooting at. Piece of wood settling between the 6, 7, and 9. Looks like it's going to probably rest itself along the 7 pin, which already had a piece of wood. Now it has a second one to hang out. Could play the 7 pin, could play the 6, 9. He's a little too full on the 6, 9, though. No spare for Jon Alosa. Double buffered wood in front of the 7 pin for Jon Alosa. For the 10 box, he'll take the 10 box. Second 10 box in a row, 75 after 8 for Jon Alosa. In the past 5 matches, I swear to God, this is the last one for Jon Alosa. He has taken 35 points. No, he has not. Just kidding. Sorry, I wrote the stat down twice, and the second stat was inaccurate. So forget that last one. No more past 5 matches stats for Jon Alosa. He drops 5. 4 horsemen left side, and the 9 pin. 1, 2, 4, 7, 9. Piece of wood across the 1 and the 2 in the back. Might mess up a pocket shot, but we'll see if he gets it. And that was the messed up pocket shot, just as predicted. Jon Alosa's left with the 7 and the 9. Piece of wood across the 7. Got to pick a stick. Maybe play the wood if you're feeling fancy, but it's 8, 9, or 10 for Jon Alosa. 75 after 8, and wild pitch to the left, oddly enough. That's an 8 box for Jon Alosa. 83 after 9 is where we stand. My goodness, Joe Rocheleau plus 2 in the total so far with that spare 4 at the end. Jon Alosa really needs a mark to keep that total out of Joe Rocheleau's reach, because it's actually swayed in Joe Rocheleau, even though he's plus 1 in the boxes, but we'll assess that here at the end of this box. This mark will be big for Jon Alosa. 1, 2, 7, 8 for Jon Alosa right now after 1 ball. Spare leave. They're close enough to one another. On the 1, 2 pocket, misses that head pin. Takes out the 2 and the 7. The 1 and the 8 are what he has to shoot at now. 1 and the 8. Jon Alosa versus the 1 and the 8 for the 10 box. He hits it nice and full for a 10 box, and that will finish him at 93. And Jon Alosa retains the total by plus 8 at least with that 10 box. But it's only an 8 handicap for Jon Alosa going into the 5th and final game. Again, it's all about the grand total pinfall here at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour Playoffs quarterfinals here. So we're moving on to the 5th and final game. Joe Rocheleau here at Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire. I'm Steve Kelly. That's Joe Rocheleau. Pleasure to have you along this match all weekend. Wild card weekend, quarterfinal weekend, whatever you want to call it. Joe Rocheleau drops 6, 4, 5, 7, 8. With some wood, that can go. Spare leave, piece of wood way out front of those 4 pins. In the past 5 matches, Joe Rocheleau has taken 36 points, which is a -1 from the previous 5. And in the past 5 matches, he's taken 63 spares, plus 15 from the previous 5. And 11 strikes in the past 5 matches, -1 from the previous 5. Joe Rocheleau averages 5.11 points per away match. He has a 15-game streak of games over 100 to finish off the season strong. Joe Rocheleau will open with an 8-box in the 5th game here. Last time versus Jon Alosa in round 4, Joe Rocheleau took 6 points with a 542 series with 2 strikes, 12 spares, and 9 tens. To give you some context on the last time these two gentlemen met. Joe Rocheleau on lane 20 in Concord, New Hampshire. Washes out the left side and slides the 5 pin to the right, but it doesn't go down. 1, 3, 5, 6, 9, 10. Cluster of pins on the right half of the deck for Joe Rocheleau. Spare leave opportunity. Real awkward array here. But the leave remains the same, the shot remains the same, and Joe Rocheleau will careen to the right, leaving just the head pin. No spare for Joe Rocheleau. Joe Rocheleau for a 9 or 10 box against the head pin on lane 20. He'll miss it for a 9. 17 after 2 for Rocheleau. With 3 to go before he finishes the final first half of this 5-game series in this playoff match. At this point, either of these bowlers could advance to the next round. If it is a tie, it is a 1-game roll-off, if I remember correctly. I think I saw Bob Lee discussing that in Rob Brown and J.J. Turigny's match. Not sure if that will happen, but we'll see. I believe it is just a 1-game roll-off, so if that happens, we'll just keep going, I guess. But anyways, we're in Game 5 here. 7-10, 2-4. Joe Rocheleau after the first ball of the 3rd frame. 2-4, 7-10 with some wood behind the 2-4-7 and to the right of the 2. He's a little bit too full in the 2-4 pocket, leaving the 7 and the 10 for a 8, 9, or 10 box opportunity for Joe Rocheleau here. Joe Rocheleau in the navy blue shirt, left-handed bowler with the knee brace on lane 20. Joe Rocheleau will play the wood. He'll take one of the 2 pins out, leaving the 10 pin for a 9 box. 26 after 3 for Joe Rocheleau. Joe Rocheleau up 18 in the overall total, even though he's ahead by 3 boxes. But it's not a huge lead. There's been not a lot of marks. The marks have oddly dried up here in the second half of this match. A lot of them in the first half, the second half not so much. A lot of these shots have not been connecting with the head pin all that much. Joe Rocheleau drops 6. 1, 7, 10, 9. That's the Bermuda Triangle plus the 9, the high-low jack plus the 9, whatever you want to call it. A lot of wood all around. A lot of wood stuck around. I want to say 4-ish pieces of wood are down there. Mostly are behind the head pin. Joe Rocheleau on the head pin, and he'll take a spare. Finally a spare. Joe Rocheleau will take a spare. 36 plus a ball after 4. It's nice to have a spare in the 4th, because then if you can chain it with another mark in the 5th, you feel real good when you sit down. 36 plus a ball after 4 for Joe Rocheleau. Joe Rocheleau filling a spare here. Thinking long and hard about it, examining his bowling ball. I know the feeling. One of my bowling balls has a large chip in it from a recent match. Sometimes the pin setter just gets hungry. The machinery out back. Joe Rocheleau. Release on lane 20. Thought long and hard about it. Way too full on the head pin. Spread eagle and a friend. I believe that's a 5 fill. Joe Rocheleau's gotten a lot of those lately. 2, 3, 4, 6, 10. Spare leave. 3, 6 or 2, 4 pocket. I would play the 3, 6 pocket. Play the side with more pins, I guess. And that's what Joe Rocheleau decided, but he misses the 3 pin, connects with a 6-10, leaves the 2, 3, 4. It's going to be a 7, 8, 9, or 10 box for Joe Rocheleau. Potential for a 51.5. My guess is it might end up being 49. Let's see what happens. I mean, 8 box. It will be a 49.5. Hey, I know things. 49 after 5 for Joe Rocheleau. And that puts him at a 4.5 game total of 453. And Joe Rocheleau has plus 41 for the total, 5 boxes ahead of Jon Alosa, to give some slight context in terms of where things are. Jon Alosa now starting out on lane 20. First half of the 5th and final game, 7-10 split leave for Jon Alosa. Jon Alosa only has 24 of 90 games that were under 100 this season, 26.6%. Jon Alosa, no luck on the 7-10 pinball shot, and a piece of wood is out of play. Jon Alosa's longest streak of matches over 520 was 7. And we got to pause for some lane maintenance. Or maybe not. No, it's rolling back. Just kidding. Looks like it's definitely back in now, I'm pretty sure. It's Jon Alosa versus the 10, and now it's rolling forward again. So, okay. I think it's still in. Jon Alosa versus the 10. He fouls it off for a 9. Didn't matter anyway because it was a foul. Jon Alosa's longest streak of matches over 520 was 7. He has reached his peak season average twice. First in week 1 against Jake Morrill, and then in week 9 versus JJ Turigny. Jon Alosa dropping 7, wiggly 7, 1, 2, 8 on the deck. Jon Alosa versus the 1, 2, 8 spare leave. Jon Alosa with 7 points per home match. That's a spare for Alosa. 7.00 points per home match on average for Jon Alosa in the regular season, and 9.78 points per away match for Jon Alosa. He's on a spare, 19 after 2 plus a ball. The last time Jon Alosa faced Joe Rocheleau in round 4, he took 8 points out of a possible 14 with a 567 series, 3 strikes, 6 spares, 9 tens, and that's a 3 fill for Jon Alosa. That's disappointing. 19 after 2, or 22 after 2, excuse me. Jon Alosa can't quite convert the spare. Left with the 2 and the 4. Jon Alosa for the 10 box. He'll take a 9. Pin's not cooperating. 31 after 3 for Alosa. Compare that to 26 after 3 for Joe Rocheleau. 2 boxes ahead. Joe Rocheleau is only ahead by 10, so this is a competitive match. This is a close match for sure. Happy to see competitive matches. I know each bowler would probably rather it not be as close for comfort levels, but hey, that is what it is. That means it was a good matchup. 7 drop for Jon Alosa, 1, 9, 10. Lots of wood to contend with. I would still just play the head pin. Maybe toy with the pin on the right side, the dead wood, and Jon Alosa hits it a little bit too full. Hangs his head in disappointment. Leaves the 9 pin, and the 9 pin only. This will be a difficult 10 box. Based on that wood in the front, that wood might not do what you think it's going to do, and that was exactly what I thought it was not going to do. That's how you don't do it, said band director Dave Seiler one time. That's 40 after 4 for Jon Alosa. Rocheleau retains the total by 1. My goodness. So this is a close match. It's getting closer and closer and closer here. Jon Alosa on the head pin, and he drops 9. Okay, slightly back on track now. Drops all but the 6 pin. Single pin spare for Jon Alosa. This is playoff bowling. This is often what determines who goes and who stays in the playoffs. Here at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, Class B North playoff match, quarterfinal between Joe Rocheleau and Jon Alosa. I'm Steve Kelly back here. That's Jon Alosa down there in the black shirt, and he will take a spare. He much needed that spare. 50 plus a ball for Jon Alosa. So not factoring in the fill, Jon Alosa is up in the total by 9. It could be more based on what the fill is going to be, but for the moment, it's just a difference of 9. 9 with an asterisk next to it. Again, it's all about the grand total pinfall. 453 for Rocheleau, 462 for Alosa at 4.5 games in. I'm going to say hi to Joe Rocheleau one more time. For the final time in this 5-game series on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, Joe Rocheleau punching out the left side half Worcester. The last time Joe Rocheleau bowled in the regular season, he bowled against Kevin Dietrich in round 18. He took 10 points with a 577 series with 3 strikes, 14 spares, and 15 tens. Joe Rocheleau with an awkward second ball, no spare, leaving the 3, 4, 7, 9, 10. And at this point, low-scoring boxes mean more and more and carry much greater weight at this point in the match, and that's going to be a 6 box for Joe Rocheleau. Again, the difference was only 9 and some change in Jon Alosa's favor at the half. So this is big. Joe Rocheleau really needs marks to maintain standing here to get far enough ahead of Alosa. It's going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight here in the final match, final half of this 5th game of the 5-game series in this playoff match, in which it's just scratch, grand total, pinfall wins. Joe Rocheleau misses the head pin, 15389. Bouquet of pins in the center. Joe Rocheleau versus the bouquet. Full on the head pin, leaves the 5-pin. That 5-pin, man. Said it many times during this match before, and I'll say it again. Let's start a petition to delete the 5-pin. Hashtag delete the 5-pin. Joe Rocheleau versus that 5-pin. He'll miss it for a 9 box. For 64 and 7 for Mr. Joe Rocheleau in the 7th. Joe Rocheleau 2 boxes ahead, up in the total by 6. Uneven point in the match. Rocheleau, lane 19. 1-3 pocket, connects, drops 9, leaves the 7-pin on the deck. Wood still settling. Joe Rocheleau remarking on the pressure of this match, and I can't disagree with him. That's Joe Rocheleau versus the 10-pin. A 7-pin, that is. Can't count pins. Joe Rocheleau versus the 7-pin, and wow, he misses that one wildly to the right. Would have been a great shot against the 5-pin in the previous box. He'll cap the wood, take the 7-pin, miss the second, get the third for a 10 box. 74 and 8 PGS for Joe Rocheleau. 2 boxes to go, 74 and 8. 478 thus far for Joe Rocheleau. Rocheleau's been having some trouble with that curve today. It either goes wildly left or wildly right. 153-810 is what he's shooting at. There were some words of wisdom from Shane Lipke, and he said when his father, Tim Lipke, when he was a kid, Shane Lipke said, if you're wildly off to the right, this is going to sound really stupid, but actually position yourself to the right on the approach. And I remember, and that's a spare for Joe Rocheleau, by the way. He definitely needed that. That's 84 plus a ball after 9. But Shane Lipke was originally turning to his dad, and he said, that's really stupid. Why would I move to the right if I'm already drifting to the right? And Tim Lipke looks at him and just says, just effing do it. And that was kind of the words of wisdom. And I will definitely think about that the next time I'm having issues where the ball is just drifting left or right. So thank you, Tim Lipke, and thank you, Shane Lipke, for sharing that story. And that's a strike by Joe Rocheleau. Fantastic recovery there for Rocheleau. That is strike on spare for Rocheleau, 104 plus a ball, and that might have been what he needed. Look at that, 104 plus a fill for Joe Rocheleau, finishing strong. He did this before earlier in the match, and maybe he'll do it again. 104. Next ball on the pocket. No strike, though. 7 drops so far. It's 111 plus potential for 3 more. Could have a potential for 114 if you can get the spare. Spare on strike. He'll just be a 10 fill, effectively. Joe Rocheleau versus the 5, 9, 10, and he'll get it. Excellent, excellent finish by Joe Rocheleau. That's going to be 114 after all is said and done. So the die is cast. Joe Rocheleau is done bowling. 518, 5-game total for Joe Rocheleau. That's a 114 game. That is his second best game of the day. 518 total. Grand total pinfall wins. Jon Alosa is down by 56. Minus whatever this fill ends up being. Jon Alosa filling the spare. This has to be big. He's off the left of the head pin, but gets a generous drop. That's a 7 fill. That's 57 after 5 now. One, 3, 8. Jon Alosa, he misses the pocket. No spare for Jon Alosa. Jon Alosa really just needs like 1 or 2 solid marks and solid fills to lock this up. That's a 10 box for Jon Alosa. That puts him at 67 after 6. Deficit drops to 39 for Jon Alosa. Jon Alosa has yet to throw a strike today. Rocheleau's thrown 4. 6 spares for Rocheleau, 9 spares for Alosa. In the regular season, Jon Alosa faced Rob Brown in round 18. He took 1 point with a 5-17 series with 2 strikes, 10 spares, and 9 tens. He drops 7, 2-4-7. Jon Alosa, for some reason I have a nickname written down for him as Aloha Alosa. I don't think anyone's called him that. That's just a me thing. He's from Concord, New Hampshire. That's a spare for Jon Alosa. That was precisely what he needed. Sorry, not a strike, a spare. 77 plus a ball for Jon Alosa. The deficit drops to 29 now, with 3.5 boxes to go. Jon Alosa's home bowling center is Boutwells in Concord, New Hampshire. He was in charge of the Best Box tournament at Boutwells on Sunday, March 17th, 2024. He works in the field of healthcare. He is a capability manager at Optum, and that's a strike on spare by Jon Alosa. You know, I think I just need to talk about a bowler, and suddenly they start to get hot. That's 97 plus a ball after 8 for Jon Alosa. The total lead from Rocheleau is only 9, and at this point, I think Jon Alosa is likely going to advance to the finals, to the semifinals, that is, and that strike on spare fill, making it dramatic. He fills it with 1 so far. Thank goodness you get a second one. Jon Alosa went to UNH, just as I did. He married Heather Alosa, 2011. He's quite the family guy, super into all things Disney parks. If you check out his Facebook, that's an 8 fill on Jon Alosa's strike fill, 105. Versus the 5-7 for a 10 box. He'll try to get something fancy here, but he'll take an 8 box on the 5-7. That's 113, and that is it. Alosa reclaims the total with that box. Jon Alosa, congratulations. You are going to the semifinals of the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour Class B North Playoffs. Jon Alosa's son Ian turned 3 on December 16th, 2023, and then 4 this past December. My stats a little bit off, I guess. His oldest son Andrew started 2nd grade on September 5th, 2023. And that's the story for Jon Alosa. Jon Alosa dropping 8, the 3-6. The 3-6 Mafia, he only takes out the 6. This is the final box. This is just gravy at this point for Jon Alosa for gloating purposes. He'll take a 9 box. That's 122. Final game for Jon Alosa. Final total is 534 Jon Alosa, plus 16 over Joe Rocheleau's 518. This was a super competitive match. Jon Alosa didn't have any strikes until the final half when it mattered. Strike on spare. Jon Alosa remarks, hell of a match. And yes, it's been a fantastic match here at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Folks, it's been a fantastic time casting this for you. That'll be it from us today at Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire. If you're new to the world of Candlepin bowling, I thank you for watching. I hope this was a pleasant viewing experience for you. Check out the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour page on Facebook, as well as Candlepin Bowling Network, Candlepin Corner, Alley Chat, and the Candlepin Bowling Network on YouTube, where all kinds of other things are regularly posted. I'd like to thank ACST League Commissioner Danny Finn, the ACST stats and numbers crunched by Micah Imperato, Brian Hebert for the statistical graphics used in this broadcast, the staff at Boutwells Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire, and thank you very much for watching. Here's the playoff picture, so just imagine a red X next to Joe Rocheleau, and that's where we're at. We'll find out what happens with Dominic Palladino and Kevin Dietrich probably shortly here. If there isn't a stream already in progress, go check that out. Then we'll have a better idea of what these semi-final rounds will look like. I've been Steve Kelly, and I hope you have a fantastic day. From all of us at Boutwells Bowling Center, for Jon Alosa and Joe Rocheleau, have a great one, everybody.